Hello, and welcome to our Patreon. This is Susfaction.
Yeah, hello. I love that music.
It's very Sherlock Holmesy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. That's what it makes me think of. So I thought it was perfect for true crime.
yeah.
Okay, so natural born killers.
Mm-hmm.
While the screenplay by Quentin Tarantino is fictional, the movie was inspired by the 1958 killing spree of Charles Starkweather and Caril Ann Fugate, along with other media sensationalized crimes. So, do you know anything about this story before I start?
Just the movie.
Oh, just the movie.
I don't know
Okay.
anything about these two.
So, whenever you want to weigh in, because I actually haven't seen the movie in a really long time and I only saw it
Same.
once. So, I don't know the movie that well personally, but jump in wherever.
Okay.
All right. Charles Starkweather and Caril Ann Fugate met in 1956 in Lincoln, Nebraska when she was 13 and he was 18. They were introduced by Fugate's older sister Barbara, who was dating one of Starkweather's friends, Bob von Busch.
Von Bush.
Bush like the beer, Busch.
Gotcha.
Okay. Despite the age difference and her parents' disapproval, they began a relationship. Now, I have several sources on this, but it was debatable whether Starkweather was actually her sister's ex-boyfriend or just a friend of her current boyfriend. Because it's in there.
Wow.
It's in there both ways. Like, it's recorded both ways in history. So I'm not exactly sure.
Drama.
Right? All right. So Starkweather, an 18-year-old high school dropout, pursued the 13-year-old Fugate and taught her how to drive. At 13.
Wow.
Charles was born November 24th, 1938, the child of Guy and Helen Starkweather. Growing up in a solidly middle-class family, Guy Starkweather worked as a carpenter by trade, but due to bouts of rheumatoid arthritis, he would often go through times of unemployment. And during these times, Helen would work as a waitress. Growing up, Starkweather was bullied and did poorly in school because he was slightly bow-legged and had a stutter.
Aw.
He was so badly taunted that as he grew older and stronger, he found a physical outlet in gym class where he channeled his ever-growing rage.
Wow.
It took a turn, right? You're like, oh, I feel bad for him. Oh,
Yeah.
he needs help. Okay. He later idolized James Dean and identified with the actor's rebellious outsider image. Fugate's parents, Velda and Marion Bartlett, disliked Starkweather due to his age and behavior. Starkweather reportedly took a job at a newspaper warehouse specifically because it was near Fugate's school. Starkweather's relationship with Fugate was arguably predatory in nature, given that the age of consent in Nebraska, both then, 1950s, and now, is 16 years old. Remember, she was 13 when they met, he was 18. That's
Yeah.
a 5-year difference.
That's a big brain difference, too.
Very big, especially because she was in middle school
Yeah.
and should have been graduated, but high school dropout.
Right. Like, I still, like, today, I consider, like, okay, at the age of 16 to, like, 26, I consider them all babies. Like, I consider them all to be children.
And that's, I mean, as well you should, I think. Now, we have a few listeners that are younger than 25, but 25 scientifically has been proven to be the age when your brain is fully developed.
Right.
So your brain is underdeveloped until you're 25. Like, that's
Yeah.
just how it is, and that's science, and you can't argue with it. Even though you may want to. Okay.
But
So,
still, that 13 to 18,
13 to
that's
18.
a weird one.
Yeah. So this means that any physicality between the two, however consensual, would be considered statutory rape under the law. Caril was described as a typical 13-year-old. I had to Google what that would be because I didn't grow up in the 50s. A
Right.
typical 13-year-old now versus when I was a kid is drastically different. So
Mm-hmm.
to think, oh, okay, 1950s, that's got to be even more different, right?
Right.
So I Googled it. So according to Google AI, a typical 13-year-old girl in the 1950s in the USA lived a life centered on school, peer cliques, and emerging teen consumer culture, often wearing poodle skirts, listening to rock and roll, and talking on the phone. They gathered at soda fountains, watched American Bandstand, and faced intense pressure to conform socially and succeed academically. Caril Ann Fugate was considered an intelligent and well liked 8th grade student at Whittier Junior High School in Lincoln, Nebraska. I did find that. Now, there's not much else on her before her interactions with Starkweather because
Right.
she was 13. She was a minor.
Yeah.
And nobody really plans to tell their child's story when they're on trial.
Right.
Um, so there's not much else known about how she was prior to what happened. So Starkweather reportedly taught her how to drive with his father's car. When she crashed it, a fight between the Starkweathers ensued, which ended in Charles's banishment from the family home. Again, he was 19. So it's more like go find your own place to live. You're old enough.
Yeah.
um okay, so he took a job as a garbage collector. During pickups, he'd plot out robberies on homes. But his real criminal streak began when he committed his first murder the following year.
Dun dun dun.
On December 1st, 1957, Starkweather killed Robert Culvert in Lincoln, Nebraska, when he robbed a gas station where Culvert was the attendant. Reportedly, Robert had previously refused Starkweather's attempt to buy a present, a stuffed animal, for Caril Fugate on credit. Starkweather robbed him at gunpoint and then took him out into the woods where he shot him in the head.
Wow.
On January 21st, 1958, Starkweather went to call on Caril Ann Fugate at her home, where he was confronted by Fugate's mother and stepfather. They reportedly told him to stay away from their daughter, and in response, Starkweather fatally shot both of them. He then strangled and stabbed Fugate's 2-year-old half-sister to death.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. A 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So most of the most of the articles I read all call her a 2-year-old. One referred to her as her infant sister, but an infant and a 2-year-old are two different things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with 2-year-old because that was more consistently throughout. So 2-year-old. After killing Fugate's family in Lincoln, Nebraska, the pair hid the bodies and stayed in the home for several days with a sign on the front window that cautioned visitors not to come in because they were all sick with the flu. Before beginning a broader killing spree, after he felt they'd averted any suspicion, Charles Starkweather took Caril Ann to her family friends, a 70-year-old August Meyer, and shot both him and his dog with a shotgun.
Is the dog?
I know. The dog.
What's the dog gonna do?
Starkweather then attempted to flee the area with Fugate in tow. But when he drove their car into the mud, 2 teenagers, Robert Jensen and Carol King, stopped to help. Trigger warning for attempted sexual assault. He rewarded their generosity by shooting Jensen to death. He then attempted, and failed, to rape Carol King before he shot her to death as well. Starkweather would later claim that Caril Fugate shot King to death. Fugate categorically denied the accusation. Their next stop was at the home of industrialist C. Lauer, it's Lauer, Lauer Ward, after stabbing his maid, Lillian Fensel, to death. Starkweather killed the family dog too, then stabbed Ward's wife.
What's he got against animals too?
Well, a lot of killers kind of start with animals,
Right.
so he just kind of like did it all at
Just
once.
killing everything.
Yes, very much so. It was. We'll get into it a little bit later, but Caril said that he very much killed pretty much anyone they came into contact with. Anyone they came into contact with
That's
when they were on this killing spree. Okay, so then he stabbed Ward's wife Clara to death when she came home, and then he finished up by fatally shooting C. Lauer Ward. They robbed the house and haphazardly searched for a new getaway vehicle. That's when they came upon Merle Collison sleeping in his Buick just outside of Douglas, Wyoming. To get his car, the pair fatally shot and killed him. But while Starkweather claimed that Fugate was the one who pulled the trigger, Fugate again steadfastly denied killing Collison or anyone else for that matter. The Buick had a brake mechanism that was unfamiliar to Starkweather, so as a result, the Buick stalled. A passing motorist, Joe Sprinkle, stopped to try to help, and an altercation ensued.
All these people just trying to help.
I know. When Starkweather threatened Sprinkle with a gun, Natrona County Sheriff's Deputy William Romer showed up.
Oh, shit.
Immediately upon seeing the deputy, Fugate ran from their vehicle towards the police, screaming for help and begging them to arrest Starkweather. He then roped her into a high-speed chase with the deputies, but Starkweather pulled over when one of the cops' bullets shattered his windshield and cut his ear. The officer said that Charles believed he was bleeding to death.
No.
And that's why he stopped, because he was bleeding to death from a cut on his ear.
Yeah.
Not very
What a baby.
He was not very smart. But the governor changed. Oh, I'm sorry. I went too far. Yeah, bleeding to death. Okay. Starkweather and Fugate were apprehended near Douglas, Wyoming on January 29th, 1958, following a high-speed chase and a final carjacking. Charles Starkweather was brought up only on one charge of first-degree murder for Robert Jensen. At the time, Starkweather willingly chose to be extradited from Wyoming to Nebraska because he believed, incorrectly, that prosecutors would seek the death penalty or wouldn't seek the death penalty in Nebraska because the governor at the time was against execution. So he thought he would not get the death penalty. But the governor changed his mind in this case, just for Charles.
Wow.
During the trial, Charles Starkweather changed his story several times. First, he said that Caril wasn't even there. Then he said that she was a willing participant. And at one point, his attorneys also argued that he was insane, though the jury didn't believe any of it. By the time he was on death row and had given an entire essay in Parade magazine, one of the most popular publications of the time, Starkweather was claiming that his crimes were actually all Fugate's idea.
Oh.
So first she wasn't there, then she was a willing participant, then he's crazy, then it's all her idea.
Wow. This guy's a nutbag.
Quote, all the time the spree was taking place, I was scared, Starkweather wrote in Parade. I was going to give up. Carol then threatened out loud that she wasn't going to give up, with a shotgun laying across her lap, with the barrel pointing directly at me. And with her fast talking, she convinced me that we didn't have anything to gain by giving up.
A little ass 13-year-old girl with a gun in her lap scaring this 20-year-old man.
Right? Quote, if I fry in the electric chair, she should be sitting in my lap.
She'd fit.
He was executed in the electric chair on June 25th, 1959. He was buried in Wyuka Cemetery in Lincoln, Nebraska, where 5 of his victims are also buried. I don't think he deserves to be there.
That's poor taste.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Now, from the other side of the story. Fugate claimed she was held hostage by Starkweather and forced to accompany him, but prosecutors argued she was a willing accomplice. Evidence was brought forth, including newspaper clippings about her family's death found with them. They argued that she may have been more than a hostage. The judge ruled that she had ample opportunity to escape and gave her a life sentence on November 21st, 1958. She was the youngest person in American history to be tried for first-degree murder at the time.
And they gave her a life sentence?
They gave her a life sentence.
That's crazy.
Now, you have to take note here because I was curious. I looked this up. The idea of Stockholm Syndrome didn't originate until 1973. That's 15 years prior or after, 15 years after her conviction.
Yeah.
So it's not something that would have been thought of, let alone argued
No.
in her defense. Fugate's version of events never wavered. No matter how many years passed, she told the same story under hypnosis, and at one point in the 1980s, she was found to be truthful by a televised lie detector test. Carol's account goes like this. After attempting to break up with Starkweather because she thought he was crazy, Fugate arrived home from school one day. 13-year-old arrives home from school. 14. She was 14 at this point. Arrived home from school to find him in her house and armed. Starkweather told Fugate that if she didn't do exactly as he instructed, that he would have her family killed, including her beloved sister Betty Jean, who was just 2 years old at the time. Starkweather told Fugate that her family were being held by associates of his and that she must go with him if she wanted to see them alive. She had no idea that Starkweather had already slaughtered her parents and baby sister and hidden their bodies. Once in custody, one of the first things Fugate asked for was her parents. She spent hours repeatedly begging to see her mother. Eventually, an officer blurted out, "My God, girl, don't you know they're all dead?" Fugate became so distressed that she had to be forcibly sedated.
That's awful.
Yeah. And remember, she was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, making her the youngest female in U.S. history at the time to receive such a sentence. Though she was later paroled. After her release from prison in 1976, Caril Ann Fugate moved to Michigan and spent decades living a quiet, private life. In 2007, she married Frederick Clare, a machinist and weather observer. Under her married name, Caril Ann Clare, she worked as a janitorial assistant and then as a nanny. While she was a candidate for her nanny position, the grandmother of the child, who she would or the grandmother of the child that she would be caring for, recognized the name and told her daughter not to hire her. But the daughter argued that Carol was the kindest person she had ever met and that the child already loved her. So she was hired and was loved like a member of the family for many years, and later invited to the wedding of the child that she nannied.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So that either demonstrates that people can change
Right.
or that she really was the 12th victim.
Mm-hmm.
So she also spent 20 years after that as an orderly at a Lansing hospital before retiring. In August 2013, she and her husband were involved in a serious single vehicle accident. Her husband died at the scene, and Fugate was critically injured but survived. Throughout her life, she steadfastly maintained that she was a hostage of Charles Starkweather rather than a willing participant. In February 2020, at age 76, the Nebraska Board of Pardons unanimously denied her request for a pardon. Yep. The book, The 12th Victim, argues that police and prosecutors made mistakes in the investigation, from withholding evidence to coaching Starkweather's testimony to failing to advise Claire of her rights. The state took advantage of a 14-year-old girl, Barry said. While some relatives of the victims supported her, the board ruled that a pardon was intended to restore rights like voting, not to exonerate convictions. As of recent reports, in 2023, she was living in Ohio and expressed a desire to be buried next to her mother upon her death. The crimes later inspired a slew of books, movies, and music, including Terrence Malick's 1973 film Badlands, starring Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek, Bruce Springsteen's 1982 song Nebraska, Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire references the Starkweather homicide. The Brad Pitt Juliette Lewis film California is based on the Starkweather murders, as is Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. And that's the true story of Natural Born Killers.
That was a good one.
Yeah. I feel like, now I'm going to let you. How do you feel about this first? What do you think? Do you think she was a victim?
I think she was a total victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with the writer of the book, The 12th Victim, saying that the prosecutors, the state, they all just really, they failed her.
Yeah.
The system failed her. She was a victim. She was kidnapped. She was held hostage. She was traumatized. And
definitely.
And for the judge to say you could have left at any time, you know how many women hear that? Or how many women don't make it out?
Yeah.
Because they are terrified, and the way of thinking that she could have left at any moment. After seeing everything he was doing, you still think that she thought she could leave?
Right.
I feel like she was really robbed of a lot of her life. Luckily, she was able to get out and turn things around. It sounds like she had an amazing, I don't know if she's still around, but she really had an amazing life after.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm angry that they didn't try harder.
Yeah. She really was robbed of any, like, justice, it seems, because, like, they didn't, it doesn't seem like they tried very hard for her.
Right. Definitely. She's an accomplice. She went with him. She was his girlfriend, but it sounds like she tried to break up with him.
Yeah.
And
It didn't sound so much like she was his girlfriend.
yeah, it didn't sound like that was the case anymore. He very much was she didn't know her family was already gone, and he used that against her.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that was awful.
I'm glad he fried.
Right.
I know that sounds terrible, but like everything he did
Good
was
riddance.
terrible, right? Everything he did was terrible. And at least when she got out, she didn't have to worry about him being around.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing. That's the only comfort I bet she had.
Yeah, she didn't like maybe she got closure due to the execution.
Yeah.
Like, hopefully.
Yeah.
But
Well,
well,
yeah.
that's it for this month.
Yeah, that's our Patreon episode for the month of March. We do a Patreon episode every month on the last day. And it's always true crime, usually historically significant, as
Mm-hmm.
this one was. She was the first female to be tried, the youngest first female to be tried for first degree murder. Um, so yeah. I don't know. Which one are we doing next month?
I don't think we've decided yet. We'll tease you when we figure it out.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.